Roger Waters, the artist, the legend. Thank you so much for coming on the Empire Files and chatting with me.
I'm so happy to be back again. I'm going to spin that. That's a bit better.
God, it's almost been a year since we last spoke on here. Oh,
Don't the years fly by?
time is fake. I'm honestly
Yeah,
convinced time is fake.
this is how see. I feel like a sort of hedgehog with a skull in its front, like a bit like that. Actually, I don't, but I love this coconut. So sorry, I'm sorry to. I know you want to talk about important things. So
I'll let you wax philosophy all day long, Roger. You just
okay,
say whatever you want, and I'll be here to receive it. I mean, I guess let's start with just your reaction to the landslide victory from
yeah,
Trump. Were you expecting that?
I thought it was no. In hindsight, I think it was super predictable. I didn't expect or not expect because I tried to pay no attention to the pretend election with Kamala and Donald, the two puppets not fighting it out in an arena that all of us wish we never ever had to see ever, because it diverts us from whatever potential we might have to express our love for our brothers and sisters in ways that are more meaningful than all that absolute arrant nonsense that we just watched. I was glad to see, though, Trump make a short speech. I saw it on Judging Freedom this morning, I think, or no, yesterday maybe. And they'd got 2 minutes of Trump saying that the war in Ukraine should stop now, this minute, and that they should have a cease. Of course, he doesn't mention what the end game might be, but always an immediate ceasefire is always good everywhere, whatever the situation is and wherever it is in the world.
Yeah, it's fascinating that's just the term ceasefire has been somehow politicized. It's like this is actually a thing that's just a no-brainer. And why is it some sort of partisan trap? Why is it even deemed pro-Palestinian? I mean, it should just be stop the killing. Like, why are we even arguing
Well, yeah,
that?
now
It,
now we're talking about, about Palestine. I think
yeah.
Trump was talking about Ukraine. He wasn't talking about Palestine. He's made his position pretty clear on Palestine. Kill them all and build a golf course and a nice resort for Jewish people only, or tourists with a lot of money. And that's a much better plan for Gaza than the people whose land it is remaining crammed in there. Just kill them all. Trump's quite clear about that. He makes no bones about it. It feels like that's almost his second most important thing. First most important thing is that Donald Trump gets richer. That's the most pressing thing, him and his family get richer. But after that, it's kind of a toss-up between killing or removing all illegal immigrants. Who's going to do the work, Donald? They do all the work, those people who live on the outside of this black economy. And they get paid $7 an hour or 5 or however little anybody can get away with it. And they do all the work that we don't want to do. Who's going to do the work, Donald? If you clean, how many does he say? 20 million, 30 million illegal aliens out of the United States. I mean, it beggars belief. But anyway, as we know, this is all nonsense. It's all rhetoric. None of it will have any effect on making America a better country to live in or a better country to be part of.
Well, that's what's so fascinating. I mean, that's what's so fascinating is that we've already had Donald Trump for 4 years. So there's no kind of question mark about what is he going to be like? Is he going to be an outsider? Is he going to fight the deep state? Is he going to fight the war machine? I mean, we already know exactly who he is, and we can see by his cabinet what the policies will be. He's been very transparent, but still, because of the abysmal, catastrophic failures of the Democratic Party in forming any sort of opposition, um, Donald Trump was able to seize on populist rhetoric, on anti-war rhetoric, and gather a large swath of disaffected voters who are voting against status quoism.
Yeah, well, the status quo won't change. Whether it's Kamala Harris or Donald Trump makes absolutely no, or very, very little difference, I would suggest, except with the possible exception of foreign policy on Ukraine, which I just mentioned before. You never know. It may be that the Donald has got some weird, quirk in his head that he feels that Ukraine is a drain on his pocket, and in consequence, he wants to cancel it. Obviously, he couldn't give a shit what happens to the Ukrainian people. Otherwise, he would have been fighting against this war since it started in February 2022, and he hasn't been. We live in
Mhm.
fascinating times, don't we? Do we care about human rights or not? And the answer, if you are anything to do with the status quo is in America, is a resounding no, we don't. Because anyone who voted for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris is saying as loud as they can shout it, we don't give a fig for human rights or international law or life and death of our brothers and sisters all over the world. We just don't care. And that here are our votes saying we don't give a shit. And that so where is there to go? You know, my view is that you can either go downhill until you get back into the 18th century or certainly in the middle of the 19th century when slavery is still legal. And just go back there and say, listen, we are still committed to the idea of white supremacist manifest destiny. Palestinians are natives, so we're going to kill them all, and then we're going to turn their country into a golf course and also a place for where Jewish people can go. Okay, and live, and they can help us to kill all the indigenous people there, and that's okay. We're fine with that because it suits us. We like golf courses, okay? We don't like indigenous people. We've shown that for hundreds of years, and we're not gonna change.
I mean, that's what's so paradoxical about just Democrats in general or liberalism. I mean, to have the audacity to talk about land acknowledgement and, before they're just signing off to just exterminate and ethnically cleanse indigenous people across the world. This violent conquest and colonization, it's happening real time, not in history books from hundreds of years ago. And so it just makes a mockery of even the pretense of international law. I mean, what the hell is going on here, Roger? Have you ever seen anything so cynical and disgusting?
No, I haven't. Um, People say Piers Morgan said to me, "Yes, you have. You were born in the Second World War." I said, "Piers, I was 5 months old, in I was born in 1943. I didn't see the Holocaust. I was a tiny baby. Of course, there were horrible, photograph albums with pictures of Belsen being liberated. And so I saw lots of photographs of very thin dead people after the war. But but I also was sort of around at the beginning of the National Health Service. And I was around after the Declaration of Human Rights on 10th of December 1948. I was 5 years old. I wasn't really old enough to quite get what was going on, but I could read about it later. And it was a pretense by the leaders in the Western world and in the Eastern world, all right? It was a pretense towards at least um, that we did believe in universal human rights, and the United Nations was supposed to be a body set up to protect universal human rights. But we, the people, allowed ourselves to be inveigled into the acceptance of a veto in the most important committee in the United Nations, which is the Security Council. So the five original members, the five winners of World War II, the Russians, the Chinese, the English, the French, and the Americans, have a power of veto. So if there's anything in that supposedly democratic body that is the Security Council, anybody of those five who wants to vote against the majority of the 15-man Security Council, they can, and they don't have to explain it, and they don't have to support it with argument or with any kind of moral compass. They just say vetoed. They did it today. They vetoed a ceasefire. The Americans. There was a vote in the Security Council today for a ceasefire in Gaza, of all places. and there was one vote against, and guess who it was? It was the United States of America voted against it.
I mean, this whole institution is just absolutely a
The whole
farce.
country,
If
I'm
the
sorry,
US it
it's
really
the
is.
whole the United States of America has now come clean. That's the only good thing about what's happening now is the
Mhm.
mask is off. They've openly admitted it and said, "Yes, we are white supremacist, exceptionalist." I can't say the word dumb, something, 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 but that's what we are, and we're not trying to hide it anymore. Alright,
Right. Right.
and Israel is our platform for no longer hiding the fact that we are the Nazis. We are who the Third Reich was in the Second World War. So Roger Waters and all you children who were born during the war or after the war, and everyone who comes, get used to it. We never meant any of it.
It's amazing because it really is similar to Nazi Germany, looking at what Israel is doing and, obviously with the United States subsidizing all of this, I think 70% of war costs come from this country, my country.
Yeah.
But what's so curiously different and starkly different about World War II is that you don't have allied powers sacrificing millions of soldiers to defeat Nazism. It's actually the inverse, where you have the allied powers supporting the Nazi state and basically deciding that there's no red line they can't cross.
You mean now supporting
Yeah.
Israel? Yeah. 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 And and all of us, we have to this is why we all turn our phones on at some point during the day to watch you or Aaron Marte or, you know, Judge Napolitano on Judging Freeman or Ali Abumina, and or one of those alternative programs, one of our alternative programs, to try and hear the voice of reason so that we can say, well, we think we know what we should be doing, but how can we implement it? Because the Blinkens and Sullivans and Bidens, God bless him, well, he has no power. He's wandering around with a head full of cottage cheese. But the ones who can still speak, are in a position where they are enjoying, in a narcissistic and vicious way, wielding that power, but to the good of no one. You think this is helping the people of America or the people of Israel? You think that the people of Israel can possibly survive? I mean, we know they're murdering the indigenous people in their thousands, not one by one, in their thousands every day. But imagine as well what it's doing to them. What do they think it's doing to them and their
Right.
children?
And the survivability of this colonial project. It is just so counterintuitive to US imperialism, but then at the end of the day, when you're a hammer, every problem is a nail. And ultimately, US hegemony will be more dominant with whatever Israel fulfills, whether it's the regional war toppling Iran. I mean, let's not forget, remember that interview with Wesley Clark and Amy Goodman, where he said Dick Cheney came to him and said, we're going to knock down 7 countries in 5 years.
Yeah,
And that was the plan all along.
yeah. I do remember that moment. And there's maybe two of us who remember it. No, of course not. There are thousands of us who remember that, but we're only thousands. We might even only be hundreds who even noticed Wesley, whatever his name was, that general, when he came out, he told us that. And then we watched it all unfold in front of our eyes and we took no notice. People sent me to Coventry and have tried and kept me there because I didn't want the United States. For instance, Clinton wanted a no-fly zone. Do you remember when Obama
Oh,
was
yeah.
president in Syria? So she wanted to go to war in Syria for regime change. Hillary Clinton doesn't know anything about Syria. Nothing. I guarantee you she's completely ignorant. She has no idea who the Syrian people are, how Syria was created. Bet she knows nothing about Sykes-Picot or what happened at the end of the First World War or anything. She just knows that they want to interfere. And maybe she knew about Wesley Clark and that story of him
Well, I
going.
just heard the most hilarious I just saw the most hilarious article about how when Bill Clinton, the affair with Monica Lewinsky blew up, and Hillary didn't talk to Bill for 8 months after that. The first phone call she made to Bill was to tell him to bomb Yugoslavia. And that's what saved their marriage.
Wow. So they did, and they bombed the Chinese embassy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
nice. Well
You
done.
know, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you're talking about when you were born and the context of World War II. I mean, I was born under Reagan. Very depressing looking, fast forward 40 years, Roger, and we're looking at this new government department that's going to be overseen by Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk, who is a defense contractor also, which is just unbelievable. And they're basically taking a Javier Milei playbook where they're just going to do shock doctrine on steroids, like a new wave of deregulation and neoliberalism. I
Yeah.
mean, I am assuming that the Pentagon's not going to be part of these massive cuts because Elon's got to get his riches.
Yeah, no, of course, they won't cut anything from the war budgets. Why would they do that? No, they won't do that. They've figured out that that's one of their absolute locked-in solid ways to steal from the poor and line their own pockets. We all know that. That's why so many people go through the revolving door, straight out of government, straight into the war industries. Because it's perfect. War is the perfect way to steal money from poor people and give it to Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Donald Trump. Working class white folk who think that Donald Trump is on their side. I feel sorry for them sometimes. And yeah, I can understand that. I can understand why they would vote for him because there's no alternative. Like Kamala Harris isn't an alternative. It's just another puppet, but she's going to follow all the same instructions for what they laughingly call the deep state. So yeah, who knows? It's kind of. I'm sure you find it difficult. I do. We get up in the. All I do now is I get up and I go, Roger, pull yourself together. Try and do one thing today that is positive. So appearing with you is a very, very good thing to do. Okay, because together we are part of the voice of the people. We are the people. And there are billions of us, and there are more of us than there are of them. So we are part of making the voice of the people, the voice for the voiceless, louder. So that's one good thing to do today. Just imagine no possessions. It's easy if you try, just imagine no countries, nothing to live or die for. Just the brotherhood of man. Just imagine sharing everything. Just imagine what that might feel like. Imagine the joy that is out there waiting to embrace us all if we stop murdering and pillaging and plundering our brothers and sisters and start talking to them and learning from them, like the lovely people in the New Zealand Parliament this morning doing the haka.
Just imagine if we actually reorganized society to fulfill people's basic needs and we actually engaged in diplomacy
Yeah,
instead of bombs
yeah.
and death and destruction. I mean, the fact that Biden or whoever the hell is running the ship right now, Roger, seems hell bent on starting World War III before Trump even takes office with these new long range missiles and now just directly confronting Russia in Russian territory. I mean, what on earth is happening here? So, yeah,
Who's
when
who's
Trump
telling him to
says,
do that?
I'm going to talk to Putin, that's not a bad thing. But the Democrats wanted to paint it like, how dare you? He's the new Hitler. And
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, but the majority of Americans watching that are saying, "Hey, I don't understand why we can't talk to people. Why is that a bad thing?" And you can't uncouple people's economic conditions here with foreign policy.
That would be part of a step towards listening to the voice of reason. We what do we need more than anything else? We need to talk to one another, and we need to listen to the voice of reason. Okay. And they are absolutely sworn to and devoted to the idea of not talking to the other side because they like confrontation because it's good for business. their business, not your business.
Yep.
I promise you, if you are a working class white or blue collar worker and you voted for Trump, you will not be better off at the end of the coming 4 years than you were before. He will be.
He's gonna be
You
lining
make
his pockets,
business,
baby.
and so
Oh,
will
yeah,
he.
but I think it really comes down to, I know that foreign policy was downplayed. I know that the Gaza genocide was downplayed as a factor, as a driving factor with the election. But Roger, I really think you can't uncouple people's material conditions. Half of the people in this country are suffering. They're financially unstable. I mean, they are not secure financially. And then you just look at the periphery, the backdrop of the genocide, of subsidizing this proxy war in Ukraine. People understand that. They heard when Joe Biden said, you guys, you're going to have to pay a little bit more for gas because we have to keep funneling these weapons to Ukraine to stand up to Putin. What do you think the average worker who can't afford bread or groceries
Yeah.
thinks of when they hear Joe Biden saying they need to sacrifice at the pump to stand against Putin?
So the question really for the people of the United States of America, particularly the working people of the United States of America, is how long are we going to go on buying this bullshit? Because they can all look at the cost of an egg or the cost of a bottle of milk or the cost of a slice of bread. And they can all, or the cost, as you say, of a gallon of gasoline. So they can all see that they used to sort of be able to get by back in the
Mhm.
50s or the 60s, and even the 70s. They can't now. You can't live. There's no way you can get by. All you can do is get deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, because I can't go. I owe my soul to the company's store. Actually, there's a lyric a bit like that in my song, song, The Bar. Yeah, the man put out his hand to help me, gave me credit at the company's store. Had I looked into his eyes, it would come as no surprise that I can't make the payments anymore. No, it's no surprise. So when are you going to stop believing the mainstream media and believing what you see on television and all that stuff? I go, whoa, they are stealing our lives from us. Our whole lives are being stolen by the very, very wealthy. When are we going to put our foot down and say nada más? Because we can. There's a lot more of them, but they manage to hoodwink us again and again. And at the moment, the main hoodwinker is Donald Trump, but not by much. What percentage of the vote did he get? 55, 56% or so? No, it's not like huge. So the other half voted for somebody who's equally evil, Kamala Harris, just as evil, just as much a supporter of the great neocon mass that runs everything. And that is, is that the gang, they're gangsters and they're stealing everything that you have and that your children and your grandchildren have all day,
Yeah.
every day, while they
Yeah.
smile at you and make jokes like effing Musk. What a prick. And you take a moron like that seriously? I mean,
Well, how do you
stole
feel? I
the
mean, Elon
technology.
Musk is basically our shadow president right now, considering how much of his own
It's
money he threw into the super PAC for Trump.
Yeah, it's incredible. Maybe however many billions he paid for Twitter was worth it, because enough people are dumb enough to believe his bullshit. I mean,
I mean, at first I thought it was because he was so desperate to be culturally relevant and funny and be in the know because he really wants to be that kind of edgelord meme guy. But
right.
Roger, at this point, I think that there's a way more insidious plot here that we've seen unfold. I mean, it coming to fruition right before our eyes. I mean, that lockdown on the narrative, buying the public square,
Yeah,
seizing one of the last bastions of free exchange and information that was supposed to be this egalitarian,
yeah.
diverse place that the internet originated as. So I think this whole um folding in of the Joe Rogan audience, the Alex Jones audience, Fox News, and a space like Twitter cannot be understated with that power. When you're making a big tent and everyone's in it, that's right of center. I mean, it's the opposite of what liberals have done.
Yeah. Well, they're monopolies. I mean, Joe Rogan, bless him, I actually did his show once, and I rather liked
Mhm.
him. And we had a game of pool, and, you know, he made every impression on me of being not stupid and being almost a good old boy and whatever. But he sold out to Spotify. I mean, literally. There's quite a good thing that I saw, probably on TikTok, of a woman saying, "Have you seen this great new restaurant? Oh, it's fantastic. You can go in, and for $5, you can have any meal that you want, and they're amazing meals, and they're from all over the world, and they're all cooked by the very best chef." He said, "The only problem is that the people who create the food, they're very, very badly paid. They don't get paid anything." And then, of course, the payoff is, yeah, it's called Spotify, and it's got
Yeah,
food
the
that
the the
you
chefs get pennies.
nothing.
It's all everyone's just
I'm one
slaves
of the
working at
chefs.
the restaurant.
Nothing. They've stolen all my they steal all the music. If you're Taylor Swift or Beyonce or something, it doesn't matter because you become so, TikTokified or whatever it is that you get billions and billions of streams for whatever. But, I mean, I know people who started bands and things, and they made a couple of albums, and they sold a few, and they used to make a living. Now they get a royalty check for 40 cents.
Oh my god. I mean, it just
Nothing.
reminds me of
Yeah.
I hate to bring up the Democrats again, but you brought up Beyoncé, and the most tone deaf strategy, I mean, to really be robbing poor and working class people to try to line your pockets to feed this dog and pony show of electoral politics, these multi-billion-dollar federal election cycles, while you are paying Beyoncé, what, $5,000 a minute? I mean, that's highway robbery, and you're giving people's hard-earned wages to Beyoncé? Like, I was shocked when I heard that because I was like, I thought Beyoncé was just endorsing you because she was a Democrat. Like, I didn't realize you guys were actually paying her $1,000,000 or whatever to speak at your rally. It's pathetic.
Well, she and Jay-Z have always, you know, they've never tried to hide it. They've always just said, "We don't give a fuck about anything. We just want money, and that's all we're interested." If a bit of fame goes along with it, great, but basically we'd do anything, anything. They don't matter to me. What matters to me is my brothers and sisters in Palestine and their children being murdered by these swine, by Kamala Harris and Donald.
I really need to talk about this next person. I have been a fan of Radiohead my whole life. I have never really criticized them openly, even though I had my qualms with their stance on Palestine for a while. I can't hold back any longer, Roger,
Okay.
after seeing what Tom York did on stage back in October. This is a year into the genocide. He's
Yeah.
going on stage for his encore of Karma Police, and a pro-Palestine demonstrator yells out something in the audience, and his reaction was so belligerent.
Come up here and say that, right here. Come on. Come on. And say what you want to say. Don't stand there like a coward. Come here and say it. Come on. Come on. Okay, you do. See you later then.
I mean, it was just astounding that you would let one person at a show, a massive concert, throw you off and actually punish thousands of concert goers who probably paid hundreds of dollars, who worship you, who are there crying because they love you so much. Would you ever do something like that? And what was your response to that?
Well, I confess I wasn't surprised because, as you may or may not know, you know, I've had run-ins. I had quite a good exchange of emails with Tom York, which it's from a few years ago when I wrote to Tom York and made the case for, observing the picket line. and observing the cultural boycott and not going when they were going to go a few years ago to go and play, which they did, and they went and played in Tel Aviv.
Mhm.
And he sent me back a slightly snide kind of answer, trying to be funny and clever and whatever. And so I wrote a reply, but I showed it to somebody who knows it, and they said, "Don't send that. That'll go way over his head, and also it'll upset him because you're suggesting that it might be the wrong thing to do to cross the picket line, and that he's wrong and you're right about something. And there's no way you need to put on kid gloves and blah 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 blah." So I did. I wrote him a sort of email that went, "I'm sorry if you thought I was being confrontational and blah 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 blah." Right, and he wrote back and he said, "Normally, people on the other side of an argument at least have the decency or the grace or the something to have a conversation." So then I wrote him back and I said, "Tom, the people in BDS would love to have been trying to have a conversation with you for months, and so have I, and we would love to have a conversation at some time. So when you say that they won't have a conversation, that they just throw shit at you from far away, that is not true. It's a porky pie, my son. People have been trying to talk to you, and you will not speak to any of it." Anyway, the exchange goes on quite a long time,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
just
how did
shows
it end?
that the guy's a complete prick, and he is, obviously, but I think he's damaged. He's very damaged. He's obviously very, very deeply insecure. He's obviously thinks he's very bright, but he's not. So he can't listen to the voice of it. So he can't actually have a conversation. That's why he then did an interview with Rolling Stone where he accused me and Ken Loach, the great British film director, and Brian Eno of being cowards.
For what?
I don't know. You'll have to look at the exchange.
Okay, now you have to send it to
Cowardly,
me.
it says BDS, and anybody who has anything to do with BDS is cowardly and shameful.
Oh. Oh, okay. See, this is amazing. I love when people twist and invert reality because Johnny Greenwood, he's married to an Israeli
Yeah.
artist. They
Yes.
performed in Tel Aviv earlier this year, actually. No, Johnny Greenwood performed in Tel Aviv this year. You mentioned 2016 Radiohead performed. I
Yeah.
guess at this point, I thought that they would be a little bit more sympathetic because we're witnessing a genocide and the full extermination and ethnic cleansing of northern Gaza. But I guess that was too much to hope for, Roger, because to your point, actually accusing people who support BDS of being cowardly, Johnny Greenwood issued this bizarre, frankly bizarre statement back in June where he
Yeah.
said it's unprogressive actually to support BDS, to actually urge artists to not work with each other. That's very unprogressive, Roger. And so no art is as important as stopping the death and suffering around us. How could it be? But doing nothing seems a worse option. So, Roger, what does he say in solution to doing nothing? He says silencing Israeli artists for being born Jewish in Israel doesn't seem like a way to reach an understanding between the two sides of this apparently endless conflict.
Yeah, well, it's just
So,
bullshit, isn't it? It's complete bullshit. Obviously, there is no argument to be made. There is the oppressed and the oppressor. The oppressed are the indigenous people of Palestine. The oppressor are the settler colonial visitors from North America and North Europe. That's one thing, okay. The oppressed are murdering. The oppressors are murdering all the oppressed people so they can steal their furniture and their houses and their olive trees and their hills and their streams and their water and their land and their birthright. There is nothing difficult to understand. It is not a conflict. It is a genocide, Tom and Johnny, and you are supporting it. I'm so happy to see the supporters of Celtic Football Club are still running their campaigns to support Palestine. They've been there as long as I have. I love you, you Celtic supporters. We must ban Israel from all international soccer at club level and international level. We must ban them from Eurovision. They should never have been in Eurovision anyway. Israel isn't in Europe. What is all that about? That's complete nonsense. But Israel must be banned. It has to be it has to be sent to Coventry. It is a rogue state, and it is a murderous, genocidal rogue state. This is nothing against Jews. I've got nothing against Judaism. I have nothing against Jewish people at all. I'm talking about the genocidal rogue state of Israel.
I mean, that's what's so
Should be
particularly egregious and offensive, I think, to anyone with a brain, Roger, to be told that it's actually unprogressive to
Oh, it's
support the
so
cultural boycott
stupid.
of Israel and that we're the idiots, right? We're the cowards because what's really progressive and brave is just acting like, yeah, we could just work with Israelis and just pretend like, oh, this is just a seemingly endless conflict. Oh, they'll be fighting forever. But we should just join up, kumbaya, and let's all just hold hands and pretend like there's not an ethnic cleansing campaign. Let's
Yeah, next
pretend
year
that Zionism is not fundamentally a genocidal ideology.
next year, Johnny Greenwood, you and your Israeli wife can go and buy a seaside apartment in Gaza and live with the other settlers there. And good luck getting to sleep, you. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I'm doing a webinar where I'm going to meet some of the protesters at McGill University in Montreal. Okay. And because they are having a big fight with a Zionist billionaire there who gave $30 million to build some bit of McGill. And he's a raging Zionist. Anyway, I sort of attacked him a little bit because he's trying to get the protesters thrown out of the university. There's this businessman. He's given a lot of money to McGill. He's a businessman in Montreal and Canada. He says, as part of his good work for the state of Israel, he's going to put on a huge rock show in Bay Area, which was one of the kibbutzes
My
on the
God.
October, to stand in solidarity with the people from that kibbutz, and he's going to get Pink Floyd to play the gig,
Oh
headline the gig.
my God.
And I had to respond to that and say,
Oh my God.
A, that's a bit unlikely, but if I was a large part in creating the goodwill in that name, and if anybody tried to do something like that, it would be over my dead body. I might get fired.
What do you think? I mean, is that happening
Well,
with the ex-members of the band?
it's only Gilmore and Nick
Yeah.
Mason. I'm
Do you think
absolutely
he'd do it just to spite you? That would
Nicky
be
wouldn't do
so
it.
crazy.
Gilmore's capable of anything. He
Oh my
supports
God.
Israel with unremittingly. He was the one. Him and his wife were putting out Twitters calling me a raging anti-Semite to the bottom of
Oh, I
my.
remember that.
Yeah, I remember it too.
Can you imagine spending time and energy and doing that? It's just, I mean, I guess this all brings me to just
Yeah,
where is everyone else? Because for me, I feel like I can count the number of celebrities, including musicians of your caliber, on both hands, Roger, of people who have put their necks out and talked about this over the last year. At this point, we certainly cannot expect anyone more. We already know who's on the side of justice. Why I am so disappointed. I mean, that's an understatement. I feel like I have just lost the last shred of respect that I've had for people that I admired my whole life. I don't even know how to move forward from here after what we've witnessed and the silence.
I don't know. I can't really answer that. I don't want to start naming names. And
Mhm.
uh,
We know who we're talking about.
yeah, we do, but uh, I can only speak for myself. And I know it sounds like a cop out, but it really isn't. I try and make certain that every day I do something. And I'll remember that, to stand by silent and indifferent is the greatest crime of all. And I believe that. And I will waste my breath trying to convince people that they should not do that. But that is really just, I try and speak with what I call the voice of reason. And it may be an act of faith, but I actually believe that there is a moral compass and that there is a difference between right and wrong. And sometimes it's not always incredibly easy to delineate right from wrong. But in the case of the genocide of the Palestinian people, it's so glaringly obvious that you don't even have to think about it. And if you even allow for the possibility that there's a moral compass that we all should pay respect to, then you have to, you cannot be complicit in the genocide of the Palestinians or any genocide. You can't. It's wrong. There is right and there is wrong. And to do what you and I are doing is right, and to not do what you and I are doing is wrong. And that's all there is, Johnny Greenwood and Tom effing York and David Gilmour. That's all there is to it. You're wrong. You're doing the wrong thing. How you sleep at night, I will never know. How you can sleep knowing that they're burning babies and killing them with sniper rifles, shooting them in the head, and feeling good about it because they feel that they're part of some biblical prophecy. How do you sleep, guys? I don't know. So there is a moral compass. Dr. West is right, and so is Jill Steen. Okay. So, and we know it. Abby and I know that. And billions of us know it. Some people in the world, it's part of their religion. I was beginning to read the works of Confucius the other day, and Confucius is quite clear about it. So is Buddha, quite clear about it. They know that this is wrong, and they say so unequivocally over and over again in their writings. Actually, weirdly enough, so did Jesus Christ. The Bible's a bit weird because it's got all that weird stuff about Yahweh in it and slaughtering your own children. So to make sure God knows that you love him more than you love your children. No, that doesn't cut the mustard. That's a terrible religion.
God was a vengeful, genocidal maniac.
Yeah.
But
And
there
the
was also good
we make
teachings about don't
Yeah.
harm your neighbor and your
Exactly.
brothers.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So some of it makes sense. Some of it lies within the same realm of the kind of reason that I would like you to listen to the voice of. It's the voice of reason that we must pay attention to, and you will not hear it in the corridors of power in Washington, D.C. or Westminster at all, ever. Unless it's Tony Wedgwood Kent standing up in Parliament like he did last week, saying exactly what I'm saying now. But he's one man out of 600. So who knows where we go from here? Maybe the voice of reason, Abby, will spread through alternative media, which is what this is. That is my hope. That is what I hope. And if I thought prayer did any good, I would pray for it too. I am an atheist, as you know, and I'm sure most people would know that now. So I'm not given really very much to prayer. But boy, I pray the voice of reason is heard and that we, the people, accept the idea of a moral compass. And that would mean that we have to observe the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights from the 10th of December in Paris in 1948.
Well, thank God we have you as the voice of reason shouting from the rooftops, Roger. We can always count on you, your incredible sold-out concerts. I recommend anyone who has not gone to a live show of Roger Waters, you're missing out, baby. You got to get tickets, go see him play. Are you going on tour soon?
No.
But you're taking a big, long-needed break.
No, but yeah, there's life in the old dog. But I did, the last one was 22 and 23, the whole 2 years long. So 24, I've sort of taken a break. I'm making a new record. Will I ever go to a long rock and roll tour? I've no idea. I think I've got some gigs left in me. So I hope so, because I do love it. I love my audience, and I love the whole thing of playing music. It is kind of addictive. Anybody who's ever started a garage band and spent hours and hours with a few mates playing songs and figuring out, and for a tiny, 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 very privileged view, the stars fall in the right direction and you get a chance to do it for a living. And that happened to me. And I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I've had. And I found that I discovered a voice during that journey, this poor pilgrim's journey. I discovered a voice, and I've inherited part of the voice of reason. So I'm going to go on singing with the choir for as long as I have a breath in my body.